What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in. Brand new edition, Batter Up Podcast, sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood here on the Sports Insanity Network. I am Mike Rifkin. Hope everybody is doing well on this fabulous Tuesday, January 20th, 2026. And by fabulous, I mean hopefully staying warm because we're getting colder, closer to spring training, and we're getting colder. It's getting colder outside. But we're here to talk Major League Baseball. We had a lot of impactful stuff that happened over the last little while. I'm going to break down all the signings, good, bad, and different. But I'm going to start with what went down tonight, which was the reveal of the 2026 Hall of Fame class. Remember, Joe Buck won the Ford C. Frick Award. That was announced during the winter meetings. Jeff Kent got voted in a contemporary committee last month. We went over that. And they will be joined by two other inductees voted in by the baseball writers. And the happiest person in the world might be John Fogerty for the fact that his song Center Field will be a center of attention because we got two center fielders going in. Carlos Beltran gets in finally with 84% of the vote. Beltran, former Rookie of the Year. I believe he won a World Series with the Giants. I think he was on one of those teams. I could be wrong. Um, Excellent career, multiple gold gloves, Rookie of the Year 99, 400 homers, 300 stolen bases. Great defender, great ball player, despite my biggest problem with him being Game 7 of the '06 NLCS, where he looked at that Adam Wainwright curveball, which if they show that on the montage for the Hall of Fame, I might riot. But Carlos Beltran is a worthy Hall of Famer. Would have gotten in probably first ballot had it not been for the Astro scandal with the trash cans. But Carlos Beltran, I'm going to word this a little bit weird, so forgive me if you don't understand. Carlos Beltran, his signing was a turning point for me when it comes to the New York Mets because after the 2000 World Series, the Mets just weren't good. 2001 weren't good. 2002 they weren't good. 2003 they weren't good. '04, which I think was Willie's first year, but you could see the signs of coming with the youth that was Jose Reyes and David Wright. They needed an anchor. They bring in Beltran, and boom. If you look at those first few years for Carlos Beltran in Queens, he was dynamic. Remember the catch he made up in center field at Minute Maid Park? An elite defender, great arm, ran the bases well, had pop. Injuries then kind of took over his career. And let's not forget, he had one of the best postseasons ever as a member of the Houston Astros. What was it, like 5 consecutive games with a homer? He was so good, such a good player. Um, yeah, listen, the sign stealing thing, went down, but he's been forgiven, and now he goes into the Hall of Fame, takes his rightful place at Cooperstown. Um, I do wonder one thing. I know he's a member of the Mets organization. I kind of wonder if the Mets are going to consider retiring his number 15. I know that might not ring well for certain fans, but especially me with what I said earlier about '06. But he's a great Met, so well deserved. The other center fielder going in, 10-time Gold Glover, 434 homers. Don't know why it took Andruw Jones this long to get in, also, but he gets in with 78% of the vote. When you think of those great Brave teams of the '90s, you're thinking Glavine, Maddox, Smoltz, Chipper. Andrew Jones has to get up there. I mean, he came up as a 19-year-old in the World Series, hit a couple of a couple of homers. In my opinion, the best defensive center fielder I got to watch. And that's saying something because Griffey was great too, and the two of them could fight each other in an All Star game because they were both such great players. But if you're making a Mount Rushmore of defensive center fielders, I think you have to put Andrew Jones on there. He was that good. He tracked the ball so well. He added pop. He early in his career he would run the bases very well. I don't know why he got penalized, to be honest with you guys. I think one of the big things I love about Andrew Jones's game in particular, um, was he didn't have to be. I know there was one year he was second in the National League with 49 homers, but to hit 430 homers, to win 10 Gold Gloves, and to wait as long as he's had to wait, he wasn't a compiler. He wasn't a. I played forever, so that's how I get my stats. Like he was good when he came up. And I really wouldn't hold it against him because the Braves didn't win a World Series. I think that's a little too harsh, especially when you look at how you know underrated center field is in the Hall of Fame. I think Tom Verducci said there's like 8 or 10 who primarily played center field who are in the Hall of Fame at the current moment, which I thought was like, whoa. And I think this opens up the door for some other guys, um, who I think are still on the ballot, or at least one is. Torrey Hunter to me is a guy defensively. You could look at the numbers. I don't know if the offense will get him to Cooperstown, but he could definitely go get him in center field. Probably, arguably, the greatest catch in All Star game history when we were out Barry Bonds in '02 in Milwaukee. I mean, that was phenomenal. Jimmy Edmonds, I think you could look at the numbers. Maybe there's a case there. But these two guys with Beltran and Andrew Jones getting in, um, we're getting into this more modern era with voters and guys who are going to go in. And I think you're going to start seeing some other guys compile here. Some guys had some big jumps this year. Chase Utley in his third year, he got up to almost 60%, it looks like, if I can read my writing. In his third year. So Chase Utley's on the bound. We're going to be bound for Cooperstown. Andy Pettitte in year 8, he gets up to 48 and a half. And let me be really honest with you. I think Andy Pettitte should be a Hall of Famer. Especially, I know there are people who are out there going to go, Mike, you're anti-steroids. How can you really put in Andy Pettitte? And I'll say this, Andy Pettitte didn't shoot the game, though. Andy Pettitte said he took the HGH to help him recover from an injury. I can't, if it wasn't on the banned list at the time, I can't get after him. That's different from what I think of other steroid users, one of which I'll get into in a couple of minutes. But look at Andy Pettitte's career. I know he didn't get to 300 wins, but great career, multiple World Series. How many big games in the playoffs did Andy Pettitte start for the New York Yankees? How many? A lot. And how good was he in the playoffs? He was great. He's got the most wins all time in the playoffs for a starting pitcher. Andy Pettitte. And if your one caveat's going to be Mike, he did the HGH. I'm going to sit there and tell you, I don't think that's a fair argument. I don't like that argument. As anti-steroid as I am, and I am so anti the steroid guys. But Andy Pettitte, I think his resume speaks for itself. King Felix Hernandez, his second year on the ballot, he jumped to 46%. King Felix jumping to 46. He's probably on the trajectory. He's going to get close, especially as we get close in the coming years. But listen, guys like Verlander, Kershaw, and Scherzer aren't. Verlander and Scherzer are still active. Kershaw just retired. So King Felix is going to have a spotlight here. And here's my question to the voters, because we talk about win loss record all the time, and I know there are people who are against the win. The guy I'm going to comp King Felix to here, I want someone either to comment on the live or when this gets recorded. The guy I'm thinking about right now is Jacob DeGrom. Now, DeGrom has 2 Cy Youngs compared to Felix's 1. DeGrom probably has him in strikeouts, or is close to him in strikeouts. DeGrom also has Rookie of the Year. But the injuries for DeGrom is what concern me. So I'm going to watch Felix Hernandez's case very closely, because I think Jacob DeGrom could be in that same situation when he eventually retires. So that's going to be interesting to me. But I think Felix jumping is great. I think it's a great thing for him. It's a good thing because King Felix was one of the best pitchers in baseball. It was just terrible. He was on a bad Mariner team. The other guy I'm going to talk about, 5th year of eligibility going into 6th. A-Rod gets to 40%. I mean, I just told you before, I'm anti-steroids. I think if A-Rod gets in, you're opening up a whole can of worms, especially from the writers. And the writers, to me, here's where I have an issue. I don't understand how you could get him in. And we have a massive issue with Bonds, Clemens, Palmeiro, Sosa, McGuire. Because I'm starting to sense there's a bit of a double standard here. And I don't want to hear, well, he served the suspensions, he got this. To me, you're opening up a whole can of worms, because if those guys don't get in, and this guy does, who's openly admitted to it, and he's openly lied about it too. Let's not forget the whole Katie Kirk thing. He goes on 60 Minutes, tells Katie Kirk that he took steroids in an MVP year. All those years in Texas, he took steroids. Then there was the whole thing in Miami years later, which led to the 200 plus game suspension. I don't know how you vote that guy in, but yet we're going to have an issue with Bonds and Clemens, Sosa, McGuire, Palmeiro. Unless my issue with Sosa is what he did on Capitol Hill. But we're declining those guys. But we're going to let this guy go. Now, I'm not saying E-Red's definitively getting in. He's got to make up about 35% in 5 years. And the ballot's going to get a little bit trickier. We're going to get into some first-time candidates next year in a second here. But I don't know how you could continually vote for him. But yet we're very against Bonds, Clemens, and those guys. Now, if you're against him for other reasons, that's fine. But let it be known that I think that's wrong. I don't want to see A-Rod get it personally. Not because I don't think he deserves to be. He was a Hall of Fame player. But he cheated. And he lied about cheating, and you want to reward that. I don't get that. I don't. And I know he's a member of the media now. I know he is this big figure for not just Fox, but just general. But Alex Rodriguez doesn't deserve it. He did it to himself, and he shouldn't get enshrined in Cooperstown, even though he was one of the best players of all time. He cheated the game. Barry Bonds, one of the best players of all time. He's not in. Roger Clemens, arguably one of the best pitchers of all time. He's not in. And those guys got out of the spotlight because they didn't want to deal with it anymore. Bonds went into a little bit of coaching. He's done other things. Clemens, who knows? But A-Rod wants the spotlight because that's who he's always been. I wouldn't vote him in because I think he cheated. And he openly admitted to using steroids. What I want to know from the writers, though, and I kind of feel like I'm repeating myself here, and I apologize. I want to know the difference. What makes you vote for that guy and not Bonds, not Clemens? That's what I really want. Other notable, Cole Hamels in his first year got 23%. And the guy I'm going to continue to bang the drum for, Dustin Pedroia, got to 20%. And I think Dustin Pedroia, similar to Met legend David Wright, the injuries. But again, Dustin Pedroia has the hardware. He's got every rookie of the year, MVP, won a World Series. I'm there on Pedroia. I want Pedroia to get it. I'm going to fight for Dustin Pedroia. That's the guy. I banged the drum for Scott Rowland until he got in. I'm going to bang the drum for Dustin Pedroia until he gets in. Outside of Hounds, I think every first year guy fell off. I think someone actually voted for Shin-Soo Choo. Because I think he got 0.7% of a vote. Which you're voting for Shin-Soo Choo to get into the Hall of Fame. We got to have a conversation. All right, so next year, which 2027, that Hall. Here's a list of the first timers. Buster Posey, who I don't know if he'll get in first ballot, but Buster Posey's a Hall of Famer, in my opinion. One huge part for the Giants. Won 3 World Series. Won an MVP. I don't think he won a World Series MVP. But an important piece for the Giants. I know he didn't play long, but he was a very good player. John Lester. I think you could comp John Lester to Andy Pettitte. I think John Lester deserves to get it. Multiple World Series. Never. I don't think he ever won a Cy Young, but big game pitcher, matched up against other teams' aces. I'm a big John Lester fan. So John Lester deserves to get in. And then other names, these guys aren't getting in. I'm just going to name them off. Jay Bruce, sorry, not a Hall of Famer. Kyle Seager, not a Hall of Famer. Ryan Zimmerman, probably not a Hall of Famer. Great career, great national. But I think you're going to see similar to this year where there wasn't a standout guy outside of maybe Cole Hamels. I think you're going to continue to see certain guys rise as opposed to holdovers. And then, listen, we're getting into the years of Miguel Cabrera, Albert Pujols. Those guys are coming up probably in a couple of years now. And we know they're going to go in first ballot for sure. So the Hall of Fame class again, Joe Buck won the Ford C. Frick Award. Jeff Kenyon by the whatever committee voted it. I'm going to say it's the Veterans Committee. I'm not sure if that's true. And then Carlos Beltran, Andrew Jones go in. So congrats to those guys who will get enshrined in Cooperstown in this summer. All right. So the last time we did a batter up, or the last time I did a batter up, I think, I did a lot of angry conversation when it came to one David Stearns and the New York Mets because I still didn't quite understand the plan, and I still question parts of the plan. But the Mets didn't make a signing. And we're going to get into a bunch of free agent signings that I haven't reacted on. And let's start with the Mets. They signed Bo Bichette last week. 3 years, $142 million. I think there's opt-outs after year one or year two. And the Mets announced Bichette is going to play third base. Brett Beatty's going to become a utility guy, which might spell Mark Vientos is getting traded. We'll get into that in a minute. Bo Bichette's never played third base, so we don't know if he's going to be any good at it. We'll see what can happen. That's the defensive issue. But, let's be honest. You got Francisco Lindor who can cover ground at short, so he'll help out with Bichette. Bichette, I'm sure, has great range. He came up as a shortstop, played shortstop. And when Bichette's healthy, he's a hitting machine. He's a high average hitter. He's got some pop. He hits with runners in scoring position, which was a big downfall for the Mets last season. But I'm starting to see something from David Stearns when in terms of what he did this offseason, in terms of Bichette and Polanco and Semien. He's not looking for more strikeouts. He's looking at this as these are guys with good on base guys. They put the ball in play. So essentially, he wants to build a richer version of the Milwaukee Brewers. Just put the ball in play, make them defend you, and the Mets won't strike out as much. The problem with this is the Mets still really don't have a thumper in the middle of the lineup to protect Juan Soto. And there's still a guy in I got to be honest with you, I'm not. I think the Mets are already very left-handed heavy with Soto. Lindor's a switch. Beatty's going to play some, so he's a lefty. Polanco, I believe, is a switch. Maybe they're not as left-handed heavy as they used to be, but I don't like Bellinger and Soto back to back. If I'm being honest with you, the guy I'm thinking about is Rhys Hoskins. Rhys Hoskins is a guy who's killed the Mets in the past, but he brings thump. He can play first base and DH for you. High on base guy. He'll strike out his fair share, but he's another guy like you're not going to have to give him 5 years and 150 million. Give him 2 years, $12 million, 12 years, $18 million. I think that'd be great for Rhys Hoskins if you're the Mets. That would be a guy that intrigues me. I think that's another guy I would look at. Then you got to look into this rotation. The Mets need, I still think, 2 starters. You look like you're running it back with the same rotation, which is unacceptable, in my opinion, because we saw much of this starting rotation outside of Nolan McLean fell off. And so I think it was Cliff Floyd had this on MLB Network the other night, a trade with the Brewers for Freddie Peralta, and it was Jonah Tong, Beatty, and Mauricio. And I saw this on Twitter. Follow me at Pumpmaster Rifkin. Follow the network at Insanity Real. There's your cheap plug. And I sat there going, and the old ops guy actually sent me the same thing on Facebook. Shout out the old ops guy battling he had a root canal today. But anyway, and I sat there going, I wouldn't do that deal. And people are going to sit there and go, well, why wouldn't you do that deal? And I read the quote tweets when they post it. There's some people who are so for it, and there's some people who are against it. And to the people who are so for it, I want you to recognize this. As good as Freddie Peralta is, and he's very good, I'm only guaranteed 1 year of Freddie Peralta. I guaranteed 6 years of Jonathan. I still got years on Beatty, and I still got time on Mauricio. Now, while I'm not opposed to trading Ronnie Mauricio for a starting pitcher or involved in a trade for a starting pitcher, I want to do it for a pitcher who's still got some control. Like, I think that's a lot to give up for a rental, unless that rental's name is Tarek Skubal or rhymes with Tarek Skubal, or it's Paul Skeens. Like that, then I could sit there and say, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'll do it for those guys. Freddie Peralta's not in that class. It's not Skubal, and I like Freddie Peralta. That's a little too much for me. Now, if you want to give up Ronnie Mauricio and some other smaller prospect, and the Brewers are okay with that, I'm okay with that. But I'm not going to give up a top pitching prospect, a very important piece in Brett Baty, and Ronnie Mauricio for Peralta. I'm just not going to do that. The Mets still need to figure out what's going on in the outfield. So there's still work to be done for David Stearns. But Bo Bichette, after the Kyle Tucker pivot, because Tucker signed with the Dodgers, that was the last episode. And it really wasn't an episode, it was more of a mini rant. Because thanks to that, we're not going to see baseball in 2027. Good go, Rob Manfred. Yeah, it's a good move for Stearns. He's still got more to do. So what that meant was Bichette did have another suitor, and they were the Philadelphia Phillies, who apparently were in for 7 years, around 200 mil. They pivoted, and they pivoted towards running it back. And they bring back JT Realmuto, 3 years, 45 million bucks, with incentives. I believe it's closer to 60 million over the 3 years. I'll say this: I don't like it. I don't love what the Phillies have done, because they just look like the same team. Maybe the difference is the bullpen, and they're gonna have Duran for a full year. Um, but still, if you look at their lineup, 1 through 9, like they're gonna have a rookie in center field in Justin Crawford. Marsh is a platoon player. Castellanos, and the way they've talked down Castellanos and Bohm, uh, you know, that's the thing that worries me. And here's the other thing about the Phillies. They have this really good rotation, and it's going to be really good. Sanchez is a stud. They're going to get Wheeler back at some point this year. Aaron Nola, I think, bounces back. Jesus Luzardo, I think, will be better than what he was in the second half. They're going to have to replace Ranger Suarez. We'll get into why in a few minutes. But the rotation, at least for 3/5 of it, should be good. We'll need to see what Wheeler looks like when he comes back, but I've got no doubt Zach Wheeler's going to return and be a stud. Then I look at the lineup, and we know what Bryce Harper is, and I kind of wonder about the whole thing with him and Dabrowski. Second base, Bryson Stott's a pain in the ass player, but he's a good player. Bryson Stott. He's not a great player. He's a very good player. Trey Turner, we know what he is. Bohm's an interesting guy because he had that great first half a couple of years ago, and he's kind of faded back and forth. He's very up and down. Castellanos, similar, up and down kind of player. And he's going to be in the last year of his deal again. And then there's a rookie. Then there's Marsh. And then they brought back Realmuto, who had moments. We know he's a great catcher, but he's also 35. Can he catch I don't think you can have him catch every day. Still, to be honest with you. But we'll see what happens there. And then Schwarber's back as the DH. So they're legitimately running it back. And to be honest with you, right now, I don't even know if that puts you as a front runner in the National League East. That's how much I think of the Atlanta Braves, to be honest with you. And the Braves' downfall last year was injuries. They're going to be healthy. Acuna's back. Albies is back. Riley's back. Olson's back. Sale's back. Strider's going to be back. The Braves are still going to be really good, and they're going to be a tough out in the East. I don't know what the Mets are. The sleeper in the National League might actually be the Marlins, but we'll see what happens. Not that they're going to be any great, but I said the Phillies are going to miss Ranger Suarez. They are. He signed a deal with the Red Sox. I think it was 5 for 103, 135 million. It's a nice signing for the Red Sox. They kind of bolster their rotation. You could probably put Suarez in behind Crochet and Brian Bayo, or put Bayo behind Suarez if you want. But you know what Ranger Suarez is? He's a pitch to contact guy. He has the ability to strike people out, but he's going to give you innings. If he's healthy, he gives you innings. So I like that signing for the Red Sox. I said this to the old ops guy because there were bet rumors on him. I'm kind of glad. I'm very glad that Stearns did not give him that contract. David Stearns didn't give him that contract. Felt a little bit like an overpay. While Zach Gallen and Framber Valdez are still out on the market, I don't love that. I don't love the numbers for Suarez, but I like the pitcher and I like the deal for the Red Sox. Then we got to get into the Cubbies. Lost Kyle Tucker, but they did gain Alex Bregman. He'll play third. He's going to look good there. By the way, Bregman was the second overall pick of the year of his draft. The first overall pick, Dansby Swanson. So they're not going to play next to each other. Bregman's a huge loss for Boston. I don't think people are going to understand how big of a loss. He is a phenomenal ball player. He's a big time leader. He had some big hits for the Red Sox and the Astros. I like this for the Cubs. I think the Cubs have done a really nice job. Then they make the trade for Edward Cabrera, solidify that rotation with Shota. Eventually, they'll get Justin Steele back in that rotation. He's coming off of Tommy John. Matthew Boyd had an excellent year. If they can get some runs, and they bring in Bregman and they still see a Suzuki, I think the Cubs are a massive threat in the National League. Right now, I don't know about the Central. I still think the Brewers are going to win the Central. I'm torn between them and the Brewers for the Central. But if the Brewers trade off Freddie Peralta, all bets are off. I think the difference right now for me on the Brewers is Peralta and Mizorowski. Plus, they steal a ton of bases. But the Brewers and Cubs are the top two teams in the National League Central. The thing that intrigues me still as we're getting closer to spring training, and we still got some big players on the market. Cody Bellinger still on the market. As I mentioned before, Framber Valdez still on the market. Zach Gallen. I kind of wonder what these guys are thinking about. Like, I know the Yankees put a deadline, or not a deadline, but they're holding firm on what they've offered Bellinger, which I think is 5 for 150. The whole report was the Bellinger camp on 7 years. That was just not going to happen. So I'm interested to see what happens with Bellinger here. Does he go back to the Yankees on that 5 year? Does another team, maybe it's the Mets on a shorter term, higher AAV? Not saying that's the move I would make if I'm the Mets, but maybe it's someone else. Maybe it's maybe it's the Cubs. They might want an outfielder. They lost Kyle Tucker. They traded Owen Cassie to the Marlins of the Cabrera deal. Maybe the Cubs say, you know what, Cody? Here's 3 years, 160 million. 3 for 150. 50 million AEV. I don't know if a team will do it, but I'm interested. So I'm very interested to see what happens with Bellinger, Zach Gallen, and Framber Valdez. Does a sleeper team come out? Hey, I'll tell you this right now. If I'm the Baltimore Orioles, the cherry on top of my offseason would be another starting pitcher. And they're waiting in the wings. Do the Blue Jays have an idea here? They missed out on Bichette, Kyle Tucker, baseball offseason. We are still like a month out from spring training, or from pitchers and catchers reporting. And right now, we know the Dodgers are the clear favorite. But listen, who knows? That's why we play the game. But again, love the Bregman deal. Love what the Cubs are doing. I think the Bregman thing is a big loss for the Red Sox. I really do. I think Bregman is a big part of that locker room. I kind of wonder if they're going to give Christian Campbell another look here. And are they going to miss Rafi Devers? That's going to be a big key, too. Because Devers is going to play a full year in San Francisco, which might hurt his fantasy value. But I love Rafi Devers. Look, we're still waiting. Teams are still doing things. The A's, they locked up Soderstrom. The A's are got a bright future ahead of them. See what happens there. But that'll do for this edition of Batter Up Podcast, sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood here on the Sports Insanity Network. If you're on the live stream, YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know. If you're going to listen to the audio version of this, get your podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Check out the website, thesportsinsanitynetwork.com, for great blogs, vlogs, planes, trains, and automobiles. Follow us on the socials, Facebook, the Sports Insanity Network, Twitter, S-Insanity Real. Again, if you're on the live stream, I believe the old ops guy and Dan are going to do Sixth Man Up tomorrow. Look forward to that for some NBA. I'll be back at some point with Wishbone Shotgun previewing conference championship games. Also, there will be a breakaway band. It's talking all about the New York Rangers and the retooling from general manager Chris Drury. Again, follow us on the socials, Twitter, S-Insanity Radio. You follow me personally, Pun Master Rifkin, same name on Blue Sky, and Facebook, the Sports Insanity Network. Have a good one, everybody, and try to stay warm.